Kia ora koutou katoa. I'm recording this at Vaughan Park Retreat Centre, which is just north of Auckland. Michael Leunig was a cartoonist for the Melbourne Age, one of the most popular papers in Australia's biggest city. At some point, I'm not sure when, he decided to post a poem instead of a cartoon in his usual allocated spot. The poems were popular, and from poems he moved to prayers, likewise popular. As Martin Wroe says, poetry and prayer are often falling into each other's arms. Some of Leunig's prayers weren't addressed to God, but some were. And you can imagine the negative response that God word would have among some of Melbourne's secular readership. Leunig's reply, and a reply that I think should be taught in every theological college and framed above every minister's desk, is in part as follows. He writes, "The word God is yours and mine to make of it and hold or discard it as we will. God as a sort of shorthand password, an inconclusive folk word, a signpost, a catalyst, a spark, a stepping stone, a simple makeshift handle. A simple, robust word used lightly and loosely, or as devoutly and deeply as we might feel. A bridge, and a way to break free from this material world for a moment or two, a day or two, or what's left of a lifetime." God is potentially a word that escapes or should escape the precision of definition, a word that points to unknownness, mystery, and importantly a word that says our language, our systems, our leaders, our governments don't control everything. God is hopefully something that can't be processed, packaged, mass-produced, and sold as a solution, although some seem to try. Today I want to talk about the prayed word, that is the public and audible prayers we use. This phrase, prayed word, is leveraged off the more common phrase, particularly in Protestant circles, of the preached word. The word, capital W, has a history referring to the Greek word logos in the prologue to John's Gospel, John 1:1, "In the beginning was the Word." And that capital W word is not referring to language or the Bible, but a Stoic and Hellenistic philosophical construct. Best translated, I think, in brief as divine spark. John's Gospel then goes on to equate that divine spark with Jesus. So in using the phrase prayed word, I'm leaning into the pun, suggesting to you that public and audible prayers at the best are those that ignite or nurture a spark within us. Some prayers might be like a comforting, familiar stone that has resided in your pocket for decades, that you massage with your fingers, and it in turn somehow massages you. Some prayers are like walking up a mountain and quickening our skin with a change in temperature. Some prayers make us pause, even unsettle us. Some make us ponder. Some touch our heart. And some insult our sensibilities, including our intelligence, and frankly revolt us. If you've grown up in a conservative church, you know what I'm talking about. Sometimes the prayed word can do the very opposite of igniting or nurturing. It can be like a wet blanket smothering that divine spark. I want to look at briefly two prayers. They're written by those connected to the Iona community. As I've mentioned before, this community is remarkable in its willingness to engage with theological, liturgical innovation. The first prayer is by Martin Wroe and is written as a grace before meals, a little prayer of thanks. It goes like this: for what we receive, the water we drink, the air we breathe, the fire of the sun, the food of the earth, this now, this here, this company, all we share. May we be aware how each day is a gift and every breath a prayer. I like little short prayers that you can memorize. As an aside, I think in Aotearoa today, a prayer called grace before meals is the most frequently prayed word, that is the most common prayed word in the secular sphere, often called karakia. And we should endeavour to lean into that cultural change by creating new and memorable graces. Well, you might notice a few things about Martin's For What We Receive. There's a pun at the beginning, and there's an old grace says, for what we are about to receive. Hence his first line. Well, firstly, this prayer of Martin's, it's a non-theistic prayer. It doesn't use God. For like Leunig, a prayer doesn't necessarily need a vocative. Indeed, its absence can be evocative. Some progressive writers, given the fraught upbringing of so many in religious confines, argue that by using the word God or its pseudonyms, Father or Lord, this word is so powerful that its echoes interfere with our hearing anything else in the prayer. Some writers, me included, sometimes put God in towards the end of the prayer. Secondly, rhetorical devices. You'll notice the short lines and the rhyming and the structure, the four elements of water, air, fire, food of the earth, all of which appeal to our ear and to memorization, and the anaphora of this now, this here, this company. And then building to this rhetorical climax, be thankful, be aware, each day a gift, each breath a prayer. The last two lines about gift and prayer is what moves this little grace from a list of things that we're thankful for, the elements, the food, company, etc., into an encouragement for us to grow in awareness the gifts that grace is all around. And secondly, every breath we make is a connection with the divine which is through all and in all. So this is a grace that is profoundly theological. One of Michael Leunig's little prayers goes like this: God, give us rain when we expect sun. Give us music when we expect trouble. Give us tears when we expect breakfast. Give us dreams when we expect a storm. Give us a stray dog when we expect congratulations. God, play with us, turn us sideways and around. Notice again the rhetorical devices. The first and last line beginning with God, and the anaphora of each line with give us, give us, give us. Anaphora is very common in liturgical prayers. He also uses antithesis. Sun, rain, give us rain when we expect sun. The first line. But then he plays with us. When in the next line, We hear the word music and we think the antithesis might be paired with silence or speech. Well, Leunig puts in the word trouble. And so he continues line by line with unexpected antithetical pairings until we reach the last line, the rhetorical climax. There all is revealed. As Leunig has been playing with us, form following function, so he does with God. Our expectations are turned sideways and around, which is a theological thesis that some people find deeply disturbing. Isn't God the same yesterday, today, and forever? Isn't God predictable? And if predictable, then offering certainty. And for many, predictability and certainty offer comfort. In fact, all of us, they do. Whereas if God is a God of play, unexpectedness, and uncertainty, then what on earth can we rely on? So this is a prayed word that might make us smile, stray dog, but is designed to make us think and question. In the readings for today, I also included a prayer called God of the Tides. I'll just grab it. It's by Jan Such Pickard. She lives on the Isle of Mull, it's the Western Isles of Scotland, quite close to Iona. And Jan's prayer goes like this. God of the tides, whose faithful rhythm underlies our daily lives, help us to keep on with courage and caring, both when we are full and fulfilled, and in times of ebb and emptiness, neap and spring tides in our lives, within the ocean of your love. One of the rhetorical devices in this prayer is the pervasive metaphor, likening God to the tides, to the ocean, and then likening our lives to the tides. Unlike Leunig's God Give Us Rain, the tides ocean provide a metaphor of predictability and constancy, a faithful rhythm. Unlike Leunig encouraging us to welcome the unexpected, Pickard is encouraging us to be constant in our alliterating courage and caring, and in our antithetical times of fullness and emptiness. The rhetorical climax of this prayer is simply saying that the ebb and flow of life, its rhythms, are all part of a love that is as vast and unknown as the ocean. So a love close and known, but also vast and unknown, like God. The last prayed word I want us to think about today is commonly called the Lord's Prayer. Many a preach word has addressed this text. The Jesus Seminar, which I mentioned a couple of weeks back, sees much resonance between this prayer and what we can reliably know of Jesus, like the address of Abba for God, an intimate, maybe Daddy translation. Like the 4 petitions within that prayer. May your way, your imperial rule, come. May we have enough bread for today, not stockpiled for the future. May our debts, monetary debts, which were the plight of the poor and oppressed in Palestine, may these monetary debts be forgiven. May we not be subjected to test after test, hardship after hardship. In the editorial processes that brought each gospel together, these petitions were amalgamated into one prayer, with Matthew and particularly Luke adding some of their own flourishes. Interestingly, scholars well versed in the Greek language point out the many rhetorical devices used by Matthew and Luke, devices that were then lost when translated accurately into English. The first Anglican prayer book was written and compiled in 1549. The translation of the Lord's Prayer has changed remarkably little for centuries. The crescendo, "For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory," was added before the 1928 prayer book was published, and some spellings were changed from 1549 as spellings do. The prayer I'm referring to is that which goes, "Our Father which art in heaven." It includes trespasses rather than the 1970s innovation of the word sins. As an aside, I'm a great fan of trespasses. I like the idea of wrongdoing being something that one does towards another, a trespass, rather than the idea of wrongdoing including something you could think or do without causing any harm to anyone else. This translation of the Lord's Prayer, "Our Father which art," today, though like much of the 1611 King James Bible, is not known for the accuracy of its translation. Our second reading today from the New Revised Standard Version gives an accurate translation of both Gospels' renditions. What the old translation of the Lord's Prayer does give is a prayer that is easy to remember because it is pleasing to the ear. What we have in the Lord's Prayer is a whole host of rhetorical devices in English, like rhyme, "Thy kingdom come, thy will be done," those short sentences again, like the antithesis, "on earth as it is in heaven," like a tricolon, a rhythmic triad, "For thine is the kingdom, the power and the glory." My point is that we need to honor writers of the English Lord's Prayer for creating a prayed word that has been learnt by heart by millions of people and endured for centuries. My point is that not that we should enshrine it, stick it on our wall, necessarily teach our children or grandchildren. Rather, my point is that we need to write prayers like Wroe and Leunig and Pickard that encapsulate something of how we understand God and the spiritual life today. And my point is not that these new prayers be lengthy, wordy, and endowed with theological accuracy, but rather using rhetorical devices that tease and please our heart and ear, create new prayers that can be memorized and publicly offered to ignite and nurture that divine spark within us and among us. The prayed word can be something that resonates with our experience, imagination, and then excites and empowers us. Blessings to you this week.